Now, the Africa Green Revolution Forum, AGRF 12th Annual Summit kicked off in Kigali today under the theme Grow, Nourish and Reward, Bold Actions for Resilient Food Systems. 2,000 stakeholders are convening, and they started this morning to explore solutions to problems hindering the goal of attaining food sufficiency in Africa. Now, we are joined by Mr. Ndagijimana Jean-Paul, the country manager at Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, to tell us more about the meeting and, of course, the issue at hand.
All right, Isabel, we can start off by asking Mr. Jean-Paul, how about this meeting and regarding the setup and everything expected on the whole agenda of the meeting, what is it so far?
Thank you very much for having me. This is a very important meeting, not only for Rwanda, but for the continent as a large. It's a gathering that brings together heads of states and government, both current and former. It's a gathering that brings together ministers, both from agriculture, for environment, for economy, for trade. It's a gathering that brings together captain of industries, CEOs, leaders of forums, youth forums, women's forum. And it's a gathering that brings all these people together to face the current reality of climate crisis, climate change, food crisis, the impact of Ukraine war. And for a week long, people will be sitting in plenary and in groups to craft solutions, to discuss challenges, and make commitments on bold actions we need to make sure this doesn't negatively impact the continent, and particularly for us, our country.
All right. Now, speaking of the things that are impacting Africa, could you give us a sense of how resilient our food systems are today, and of course, in the context of post-COVID-19 pandemic?
No, thank you very much. It's a reality that given the COVID, given the climate change, given the crisis in Ukraine and others, the agriculture or the food system as a whole is vulnerable. But despite that vulnerability, there are actions that we can do to make sure we mitigate the negative impact, be it the climate, be it the crisis, be it whatever comes. If people sit together and plan, we could mitigate the impact. And one of the actions that will be discussed there by the heads of states on Wednesday is the impact of the changing climate, which is a reality, and what is being done. So commitments will be shared on what institutions and governments are putting in place. And beyond that, we are looking beyond just the agriculture and saying agriculture is one of many components of a food system. What is happening in the research area, what is happening in logistics area, in the infrastructure area, in the manufacturing area, in access to finance area. So there will be a lot of discussion, making sure that as we mitigate the impact of climate, we are not only looking at water or moisture, we are also looking at all other factors that will make us have food.
If I could weigh in, you are talking about coming together and, of course, finding solutions. In terms of willingness to participate, goodwill, these are countries across the continent. Do you see the same enthusiasm to arrive at these solutions and not just discuss them, but actually implement them across the board?
There is hope, and there is evidence actually that Africa today is committed to tackle issues together. For example, in terms of heads of states, we will have heads of states from Southern Africa, from East Africa, from West Africa, across the continent, coming together to discuss issues like the Africa Free Trade Area. We will have captain of industries, not only within Africa, I mean CEOs of big corporations, but beyond Africa, in Europe, in Asia, in Latin America, all coming to say, we live or die together. These issues doesn't concern an isolated area of the world. It's a global issue, and it needs a global solution, and Africa is playing its part in the global scene.
Sir, talking about Africa and how vulnerable its food systems are so far, we can ask, can Africa produce enough food if these structures are put in place?
The answer is yes. In fact, the potential in Africa for food production, if you look at arable land and rivers and the environment, the potential is huge. And the realization of that potential has been a journey, and I would say the journey is good. And when you take Africa as a continent or country as individual like Rwanda, we can see evidence of progress, of moving forward towards a sustainable, resilient food system that is working not only for the people, but also for the planet, and that is bringing prosperity to farmers.
Sounds good, but let's talk about the heavy lifters when it comes to the agriculture sector. Now, women make up to 60% of the agriculture labor force. Is the conversation around support for the women going to be part of what is discussed?
That would be actually one of the key areas, again, pioneered by our First Lady here. There will be a whole First Lady session on Wednesday morning. And beyond that, we will even take a step to start recognizing female, both young and old, who are making an impact in agriculture, and raising them and rewarding them publicly for their contribution to the welfare of the food system.
All right, Mr. Jean-Paul Ndejijimana, the Country Manager for Alliance for Green Revolution in Africa, thank you very much for your time on Rwanda Television News.
Thank you for having me.